did you serve?
Korea. In Vietnam, I was in the service, but I wasn't there. I had been there when it was called French Indochina, and we were selling World War II aircraft to the French, and then later on it became Vietnam, but it was called French Indochina at first. And then one of the things, if I may add, I was up in Port Leone, North Africa. We were delivering some planes to the French Foreign Legion, and 99% of them were ex-Nazi soldiers because they started at 12 years old, and that's all they knew was the military. And I was astounded. And I can say one thing, but if it's... No.
Okay.
One of our guys got involved with a woman, and that was it.
Oh. And what was your branch of service?
U.S. Navy.
And what was your highest rank?
W-4 warrant officer. That's about equal to a lieutenant colonel in the Army.
In what general locations did you serve?
All over the world. Korea, French Indochina, Port Leone, North Africa, England for the coronation, Italy, just as a visitor in Italy. Sweden, right near Denmark. Yeah.
Which country do you have the most memories of?
England, because I spent quite a bit of time there. We were there, I think, 2 weeks, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And everywhere we went, they referred to a drink as a wet. And everywhere we went, they'd see we were Americans and we were in uniform. Hey, Yank, have a wet. They wanted to buy us a drink. And then their shore patrol can drink on duty. We can't. This is kind of funny, but I got to say it. I was in the bar. See, we went with one of their shore patrols because they knew the area better than we did. So we go into a bar, and the shore patrol, he buys a beer. He says, "Have a wet, Yank, have a wet." So I had a little glass of wine. I turned around, and I was only a first-class petty officer then. My division officer goes like this. Yeah, I never heard about it, because you're not supposed to have anything on when you're on duty, you know.
So he was turning his blind eye.
Yeah. I said, "Oh boy, I'm in trouble." But went back. He never said a word. Never said a word. Because we always, there's one of us and one of the Brits, and they can drink on duty. So but it's astounding. I turn around and he just goes. But anyway.
And how old were you then?
I think I was 19 years old.
19.
Yeah, 19 or 20, I don't remember now. So I joined at 17. My brother signed that I was 18 years old. When the LST came up the Connecticut River to Dodge County and anchored for about 6 months, that was the first Naval Reserve unit in Hartford. They later on built a building, and I was stationed there when I was married, and my first child was born at the submarine base because that was the closest naval facility. The bill was $1 a day for $5, and I still have the receipt, and I got a copy to my daughter. She lives in California now. $1 a day, and my wife loved it because she could get up and go to the refrigerator and get anything she wanted. It was astounding. And my wife's in terrible shape now. She's in a nursing home, but she's was a good wife and a good mother and a good grandma. But like I said, the first child born at the sub base, because that was the closest naval facility to Hartford, because I was stationed in Hartford as an instructor. And I was astounded when I got the bill, $5.
That's a bargain.
Oh, Lord.
And so you said that you enlisted into the
Naval Reserve.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was kept 2 years in third grade, my whole class except for 2 girls, because there was no room to shift them up at Blue Hill School. So I did 2 years in the 3rd grade. But when I was 17 years old, my brother signed that I was 18, and I joined the Naval Reserve in Hartford. And after that, I went on, and I became a chief petty officer. But when I was a first-class gunner's mate, I was in Korea. But then I became a chief petty officer, which was this. And then I became an officer when I passed the exam, and I don't know if you read that or not. I was the only one in the whole Navy. I was astounded. These are 2 chief petty officers I'm with. They were from up in New York State. I forgot the ship we were on because I was only on there. I used to go on and check all the weaponry on the ships and tell them what they had to do with the weapons and so forth. And then they gave me a command at Fort Hale in East Haven. I was astounded.
Oh.
And they had no training aids. So I was a builder, and I opened a paraplegic store. I did a lot of historic stuff anyway, Mark Twain's church, whatever. So I brought my own money. We made some picnic tables for a park in East Haven, because the reserve center there had no training aids whatsoever. I was astounded, but I had to keep the guys busy because they had nothing to do.
So why did you end up joining the reserve?
Well, my father had been in the military, was a prisoner of war, World War I. My brother was wounded very severely in World War II, never lived past 60. So I grew up listening to war stories, and I just want to show you one thing. Where's the medal book? Oh. All these are mine except this one and that one. Those are my father's in World War I. That's it. The Italian color is red, white, and green. And he went back to Italy when the war broke out and went into the army. And the last year he was a prisoner of war of the Germans.
That's quite a collection of medals there.
But the rest of them are mine, and God, if I can even remember half of them. I had a command, I was an instructor, I never went to college, but I was pretty busy.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. So why did you pick the Navy?
Well, when the ship came up the river, I said, gee, my father was Army, my brother was Army. When the ship came up the river, I was so intrigued with it. They came to Bloomfield High School, and they said, there's a new program called the Naval Reserve. If you would like to join it, come on down. So we went down. And I never went to boot camp in the Navy because I made seaman first class in the reserve, and then I went up the ladder. I became a petty officer, chief petty officer, and then I took the exam and became an officer. And I was astounded because I never went to college. I just graduated from high school. But as a builder, I did a lot of historic stuff. And I think I already said I opened a paraplegic stove for the public. I maintained Mark Twain's church for 9 years. I remodeled a private home, which was an inn years ago, where George Washington met with who was it? Oh, not George Washington. Somebody. I forgot. But
where was the inn?
Not George Washington. Who?
What's the location of the inn? Was it in Connecticut?
Yeah, it's in Connecticut. It was in just past Hartford.
Oh.
But it was a private home when I remodeled it. Oh, God, this is terrible.
Well, maybe it'll come to you.
Talking about the castle?
No, not the castle, no. A house that I remodeled. It used to be I forget what's.
Area beaches stuff?
No. This was something totally just for a family, and I don't know. These I showed you already, or did I?
Yeah, this
That's in Hartford. That's in Hartford, and I didn't know that people call it the castle.
that's a beautiful home.
You'll and then this is when I was doing solar homes, and if you want to borrow them, as long as you bring them back, you're welcome.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
You're welcome to it.
I mean, were these some of the first solar homes?
Yes, they
Wow.
were. This guy was a professor, and I'm trying to remember where he taught. And I can't. I think he was anyway. He got my name from somebody. I forget who it. But he was a very pleasant gentleman, and wife and so forth.
So now, when you were 17 and you joined the service or the
Yeah.
reserves, what were your first few days like? Do you recall?
Well, I never went to boot camp. What I did, I went on the ship, the Dodge County that was in the Connecticut River, and we would go there once a week.
Oh, okay.
And, a little at a time. Then I became a Seaman First Class gunner's mate striker. I was striking to become a third-class petty officer. When before they called me in for Korea, I took the exam, and I became a third-class gunner's mate, and I have somewhere, it was a big honor because I was the only one in my category they made. And then after that, I passed every exam I made, and then when I became a warrant officer, this is how, I was a chief petty officer then. And when this gentleman came down, this colonel, I guess he was, to congratulate me, I was the only one in the whole Navy in my category, and this is legitimate. This is not, and I was astounded because I never went to college.
Well, apparently you did very well for yourself. And so where were you stationed first? The first time you were stationed?
The first time, I guess I was in England the first time I did anything. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And how was it to be away from home? Were you married at that time?
No, but
not
I was
yet?
dating my now wife, who's in very bad shape. But anyway.
Well, how did you communicate with her while you were away?
Well, we had V-mail that we would write, and then they would mail it for us, and it only was 3 cents. No, not even. No, the military was free. That's right. We wrote free where the stamp went.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't know about now, but it was at those times.
So you communicated by letters?
Yeah. And it was fabulous. You could drive around in England and you knew there were buildings there at one time. They were bombed so severely, especially near the naval bases. And the reason why we went there, the USS Antietam, I went on it when it was straight deck. We went into the Brooklyn Navy Yard, we put the angle deck on it, and that was the first angle deck aircraft carrier in the world. And the Brits designed it, but didn't have the money to make it. So we went for 2 reasons, to be in the Naval Review for this Queen in 1955, and to show them what they designed. Now all aircraft carriers. See, the carriers originally could only take off from the bow, but now they have another area on the port side where the planes can. So you can get 2 or 3 planes up at a time, and it was just fantastic.
So you helped to build those?
Huh?
You helped to build those?
No, I never. But I had to maintain the guns on them. That's all I did.
All right.
The nuclear, we just tied them up on the flight deck in case we had to drop them.
Excellent.
We
You never had to do that, right?
Believe it or not, we never even saw what they looked like.
Oh.
They were in these big cases. This captain said to me, I was only a Seaman First Class at the time, he said, what do you think we should do? I said, Captain, if we bring them down below, we don't have the magazines, because magazines are where ammunition goes. So I said, and this is the God's truth. Can we tie them right on the flight deck, right in front of Mount 51, one of the heavy anti-aircraft guns? If we have to cut them loose, we can push the whole box over the side. This is the God's truth, and that's what we did. Because I said, if we bring them down below, I never even saw the inside of the weapon. And then my trade was guns and explosives. We never even saw what they looked like. We were told that we were not to touch that unless Washington sent a message. And the only time that would be if we were going to use an atomic weapon on somebody.
Wow.
So I never even saw what they looked like. This is the God's truth. But I said to the captain, I said, why don't we just tie them so we can cut them loose and throw the whole box in the water? Because, God, I don't want to bring them down below.
Yeah, I don't blame you, especially if you don't even know what's in there.
But, and I was only a seaman first class in those days. No, see, I guess I made third class petty officer. That's right, yeah, I did.
Did you ever see combat?
In Korea, I was on a minesweeper. And
so what did that entail?
well, these things that float around in the ocean, the ship hits them and they explode. But we would go and we would cut them loose and then try to make them float and then shoot them and they'd have them explode when we're away from them.
So how did you cut them loose? Did you have to go into the water to cut them loose?
We usually have a thing that we could just sweep it down and cut it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So then you had to be really careful not to touch it.
Yeah. Well, that was my whole trade for 33 years was explosives. And then I became a warrant officer gunner. I was a chief petty officer here. This is a chief petty officer.
Mm-hmm.
And then here, I became an officer, and these are two chief petty officers here. Let's see what the stripes. Each red stripe is 4 years.
Oh, okay.
And
I did not know that.
Yeah. And then here, see, I would go from ship to ship and check their weapons and tell them how they should, if they're having a problem, number one, repair. Number two, if their weapons are not in good shape, I had to grade them. And I had to say, they're not doing well or something, because that's the only way the Navy would know if they're not keeping things up.
Oh, okay.
And one time, this is no lie, I had my hat, one of my dress hats, and I hung it on the rail. And when I talked to the gunner's mate, I said, you're not following Navy regs on that weapon. I said, it's dirty. I'm worried about it's able to function if you got a... And a guy called me. I went over to the back to the ship. I come back. This is no lie. I swear to God, my hat was gone. One of these hats. I couldn't prove it, but I know he threw it over the side.
Huh.
But I figured, hey, I'm not going to make a big issue. I got to get out of here.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, it was quite a nice thing in a way. I mean, as I said, I'm very fortunate. My trade was explosives for 33 years, and I'm here.
And did you ever see any casualties?
On the ship on the starboard side, I did, yeah. I lost two good friends. They hit a mine.
Oh.
USS Small.
So they were trying to do what
They
you
were
were
sweeping,
doing?
yeah, we were sweeping mines, yeah.
Oh.
But that's, but God, this is an honor.
No, it's my honor.
God almighty.
So we'll talk about your medals at the end, and I'll film those.
Yeah.
Did you ever sustain any injuries
No.
while you were in service?
No.
And what was the food like?
In the Navy, the food was good.
It was good? You had
Except
good food?
once we used to rate a ship. Oh, she's a good feeder. That was important. And a couple of the ships I was on, it was horrible.
Oh.
But when I was on the Antietam, she was a good feeder. The Forrestal was fantastic. I was on it right after John McCain. And right after they had the fire, they had a big fire on the Forrestal. And see, I would go from ship to ship and inspect their weapons.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's why you were on so many ships?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I would go from one ship to another, and all their ordnance I would inspect.
Mhm.
And there had to be a gunner's mate on the ship because no one else can touch any of that equipment in the Navy. The ordnance is strictly for gunner's mates, period. And so my trade was explosives for all those years, and I'm still here, so I get a nice
Did
pension.
your job well.
Yeah, like I said, my first child, 5 days at the Naval Hospital in the submarine base, $1 a day was the bill, and she still has the receipt, and her birth certificate is dolphins, because that's what the submarine, their emblem are dolphins, because the dolphins come up and go down.
Oh, that was so cute.
Yeah.
Now, did you have enough supplies when you were away and on the ships? Did you need?
The ships were
need
almost
for
always
things?
good, and then we replenished at sea a lot.
Mm-hmm.
See, the oilers would come up. We would shoot a line, which I have a line. See, if we can wait 1 second.
Okay.
Maybe I don't have it. Anyway, we would shoot the line gun and shoot a rod to the ship, and then we get a larger line, and then we would rig up the machine to bring things from ship to ship, and that's how we replenished at sea, and that's how we refueled at sea. And because I was a gunner's mate, I shot the first shot over with the line gun. I have one of the rods somewhere, but God almighty, I should have.
Well, what about personal? Like for you personally, you know, were your needs met when you were traveling?
Oh yeah. You know, I'd stand watch. I would stand watch on the weapons. When I was a seaman, first class, I just stood watch, a 4-hour watch, and if you saw a ship, you called in right away, or you saw something that you felt would be a problem, something floating sometime, we had to report. Our watches were 4 hours, and the mid watch was 12 to 4 in the morning, and I'd go all through the whole series and do the 4-hour watches while we were at sea. So I wouldn't always have the mid, so everybody got a chance to have the mid, because it's a son of a gun.
Were you by yourself, or were you with other people?
No, you're all alone.
Oh, you are?
But you do have the phone. And,
Is it dark?
Oh yeah, very dark. And if it's a rough sea, you're bouncing.
Well, it must have been hard to stay awake.
But well, I did okay. But then the next day, it was pretty tough. But I always had to make breakfast, so I'd get up and go eat breakfast. Otherwise, I wouldn't get anything. I'll tell you. And then during the Korean War, a lot of World War II men were called in, and it was great. They taught us the guns and everything. This ship here is the first ship I was ever on. Shangri-La. The reason, this was during World War II, the Shangri-La was named when they bombed Tokyo. Remember when they bombed Tokyo? They couldn't figure out where these bombers came from. And President Roosevelt, remember the book Lost Horizons? You ever read the book? It's about Shangri-La, which was a paradise. So they couldn't figure out. The Japanese couldn't figure out when the war started. How did 5 bombers take off an aircraft carrier? President Roosevelt said, "They're from Shangri-La." The mystery, and that's how the ship was named that I served on during the Korean War. USS Shangri-La.
Oh. Wow, so how many planes were on that?
Down in the flight, well, there's a lot of them on there now, but that's just for appearance.
Oh, okay, so how many
But the elevator
typically?
takes them. That's how many we carry.
Oh, okay, but they wouldn't all be
But
on
they're all down below normally.
Oh.
They go down on a big elevator. A big section of the ship just drops down, and they go down.
Really? And then they're just stored underneath?
Yeah. And then when they're going to fly, they come up, and the catapults are right up here, right up forward. And they go flying right out. It's fantastic. I used to go out quite a bit. I'll tell you, when you're coming down to land on an aircraft carrier, you say, that postage stamp is where we're going to land.
Oh my gosh.
I used to take the mail because the mailman said, I don't want to do that. And I could see why, because when I went with him, I tell you, say, how's that guy going to land on that
Oh my
postage
gosh.
stamp?
Did you close your eyes?
But I used to take the mail. Well, I used to once in a while, because I used to take the mail out. Because the postage guy said, gee, I don't like it. I said, well, let me try it. And I could see why he didn't like it. But this is the first one.
Wow.
And they called in during Korea. Did I say I served in World War II? No.
No,
because I didn't. No. But they called in during the Korean War, World War II, and thank God they did. These guys were so sharp. This guy named John Barrett, they called him Jack Barrett. He taught me the guns. They were fabulous. God bless him, I'll tell you. It was phenomenal. And I think that's why I went up in rank so fast. Every time I took an exam, I made it, and I went up. And, from a chief petty officer, which is here, to a warrant officer, and God, it was phenomenal.
Did you feel were you stressed out at times and feel pressure?
Oh,
with the war?
absolutely.
And how did you handle that? Did you guys talk to each other?
Just had to do it. I lost 2 guys right off the flight deck. That wasn't even in battle one time. We have the watch. We were going out to check the weapons. I don't know what happened. They were up on the starboard side, and I know they didn't jump in on purpose, but we couldn't find even the bodies because they get pulled right up against the hull, and the screws, the propellers on the carrier are about 8 feet high. And we knew that they got sucked into there, and we would just go on. But
so you didn't talk to each other. You just kind of held it in when you were stressed out.
That's all you could do. You just say, "Gee, whatever." You try not to talk too much because you get stressed enough as it is.
Right.
And the officers warned us, don't just relax. And some of the officers were pretty stressed too, But see, I never went to boot camp, but I learned fast. So,
did you have a good luck charm or something that you kept with you, or a memento from home?
I don't know. I'm a Catholic, but I'm not a good Catholic. But I used to pray a lot.
Yeah.
I used to pray and whatever.
Did you ever see any entertainers?
We had what was it called when they came on board?
I can't remember.
What's the name?
USO?
The USO.
USO. Okay.
The USO, yeah.
So you did see some USO shows?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to remember one of the singers that came aboard. A man, geez, he was fantastic. What the heck was his? Oh Lord.
And he came right on your ship?
Oh, they used to come on the ships when we were anchored tied up at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. They would come on the USO, United Service Organization.
Mm-hmm.
We would have singers and dancers, and ladies and guys, and it was beautiful. It was fantastic. I mean, I never saw anything like that before. trying to remember some of the actors that used to come on. This is horrible. But anyway, a lot of the singers that we only heard on the radio in those days
Right.
were on board. They would come on board and then they would leave. And it was great. And then once in a while, the movie actors would come on board just to talk with us and whatever. And they'd show their film.
Oh, they would?
Yeah, they'd show their film down on the hangar deck, which is where they could put the big screen,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd show the movies, and they would talk, and they'd want you to. We used to say, "Can we shake hands?" And we'd go up and all shake their hands and everything. See, the USO, I don't even know if it's not in existence today. It was the United Service Organization, where all the professional entertainers would come on the ships. And,
Yeah, I remember seeing them
yeah, it was
on
great.
TV. Let's see. So, did you go on leave?
Oh, yeah.
And where did you go, and what kinds of things did you do?
Well, when I was in England for the coronation of this queen in 1955, I met a young lady there. Her father had been killed in the Battle of Scapa Flow. Her mother ran a boarding house right on the ocean. And her mother said, "Well, you come, when we have a room, you can sleep." And I stayed there for about 3 days. And I went back when I went back to the ship, the first day I went back after staying there at night, I said to the guys, I said to the cooks, I said, "Hey, I have a very nice lady friend here. What can I get?" Because their food is rationed. They were rationed. They gave me, this is the God's truth, a whole case of tangerines. And they took it out of the reefer. The reefers were as big as this room, and the food was all stacked on it. And I brought it to them. God, they thought they died and went to heaven. It was, and then everywhere we went around in England, "Hey, Yank, have a wet. They wanted to buy us a drink, It was phenomenal. It was beautiful. And I have my baby brownie camera. I have a picture of me right in front of Buckingham Palace when the guards walked out of their kiosk. I jumped in and my buddy got my picture. I got to dig him up in and show him to you. I tell you, fantastic.
Well, that sounds like a fun leave.
But food was still rationed. I was astounded when I brought that whole case of tangerines, the big wooden box of tangerines. Because the carrier, we carried enormous amounts of food.
Well, how many men were on the carrier?
When the flight deck and everything aboard, you probably got about 150 guys on it.
Oh,
when you got, when the pilots are aboard, because with the pilots come the guys that repair them and take care of everything. So.
So, what were your sleeping quarters like? Was it like what you see on TV? Where there are just bunks in this little tiny room.
That's it. Yeah, there were. I was lucky. I had one with only 4 bunks in it, but some of them you were sleeping right by the main passageways. And geez, at night the guys are going on watch or something, and once in a while they pinch a guy or something.
Oh, you didn't have a door?
I'll tell you. Oh God. But anyway, when I was on watch outside, I had pretty good vision. And you only normally, this is the God's truth, you only stand a 4-hour watch. When I finished, the officer said to the new officer who was coming, I was going to leave, he said, you have this guy stay here. He knows the buoyage system. I studied the buoyage system. And, oh my God. Well, I complained, and they had a talk with the officer, because you're only supposed to stand 4 hours. But I was exhausted.
Right.
Boy.
Well, how old were you then?
About 19 years old, I guess. Yeah.
Did the guys on the ships ever pull pranks on each other?
Once in a while, the Southern boys especially, they would say, "Hey, Yank. Hey, Yank." But they all had, not all of them, but some had guitars, and they called them their git fiddles. And they were good. God, they would play their guitars and we'd sit there and listen. It was fantastic, I tell you.
So you guys pretty much all got along.
We got along, really, 90%. If a guy didn't get along, it was very strange. We used to say, well, he whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But you had to get along, you know, because you were one family.
Right.
And, you know, like this guy here, he was a Cherokee Indian. And he was a good man. And then when he went into the Air Force and retired, and then I let him live in my Rhode Island home. And he wanted to read the Bible to us. I says, JP, that's okay. He's the one who dated his girlfriend's hair green because she cheated on him. But he was a nice guy. James Paul Morgan. The older guys used to say, JP Morgan's a money magnet. You can't draw flies. He was a hot sketch, I tell you. But he was a nice person. He wanted to read the Bible. I said, go ahead. My daughters, we would sit there and he would read the Bible. My wife and I. He was a very pleasant. And then he went back to Mobile, Alabama. I didn't hear from him. And finally, I sent letters, heard nothing. And then one day, his daughter-in-law called me and said, I'm very upset with my husband. JP died of congestive heart failure. I said, oh, God. He was such a nice person. But like I said, I have a home in Rhode Island, and I let him live in it when he retired. And he wanted to read the Bible to us, so we'd sit there and he would read the Bible, and that was all right.
Yeah.
That's the God's truth. I'm not lying.
Oh. And so, where were you when? Well, you were in the Navy for how long?
33 years, active reserve. On the way home from England, 10 o'clock at night, we were about 200 miles out of New York, and we heard, the war is over.
Oh my God.
Everybody is screaming, getting up out of their racks and running around. This is the God's truth. I mean, oh my God. It was phenomenal.
And so you were on the ship on your way back?
We were coming back from England. Yeah. And they because usually they don't pass the word late at night unless it's an emergency. About 10 o'clock. The war is over in Korea. Holy mackerel. Everybody's up screaming and hollering. Oh, Lord, it was beautiful.
Oh.
It was beautiful.
And so when you retired, where were you? You were in the reserves at that point?
Yeah, yes. And I went back into the carpentry business, which I was third generation. That's what I was in these books and everything, and it was nice. And
did you make any friends in the service that you stayed?
Well, yeah, I kept in with him for a long time, and all the ones I was closest to are either dead or they moved so far away. There's one in in Kentucky, who once in a great while I hear from him. Once in a great while. And I went down to visit him one time, and he was working in the coal mines. But all my other shipmates are gone. And this guy never drank and never smoked, and he was a nice guy. Like I said, his girlfriend cheated on him. He dyed her. How do you dye a woman's hair green? Whatever. But that's no sea story. That's for real.
So you have sea stories?
What'd you say?
I said, so he has some sea stories?
Oh, God.
Those aren't for the camera?
No.
Okay.
Oh, God. But like I said, I remember... what was it? Well, some of them I shouldn't say.
Oh. And so on this right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you call that? Is that like a life
This is
saving?
Yeah, this is a life saver.
Okay.
Whatever.
just gonna try to get it. So these are all the ships that
These
you
are
were
the
on.
ships I served on. Some of them only for a short while because I would go on board the ships to inspect their weapons
Mm-hmm.
when I became a chief petty officer, and then when I became an officer, they gave me a command, and then I had my own unit at Fort Nathan Hale.
That's
I had
cool.
82 men under me. There were about 4 waves, and that was in East Haven, and that's closed. All those areas are closed today.
Oh. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
God, I don't know. Well, I think that's my retirement, and this is the one where they honored me with the state, because I was also in the Connecticut Naval Militia,
Mm-hmm.
which the only time we were called out was when the '55 flood. And we actually, maybe I already said this, I don't know, we
I don't think you said it
had
on
to
the
shoot a
camera.
line gun to a 3rd-story apartment so we could get people. We rigged up a line to bring these, because there was water. They couldn't come out of their house. They couldn't come out of the apartment. And because I was a gunner's mate, I took the gun and I shot the rod. I have one here somewhere. I don't know where it is right now. And the line. This is the line, but I don't know where the big thing. See, it's nylon.
Oh, okay.
Nylon line.
Wow, so you lifted the people out of there on that?
If you can wait 1 second, just let me see if I can.
Whoops.
Careful, Albert. Oh, here's something that's very special to me. When I was a chief petty officer, I was on the USS Shenandoah,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, "Hey, Attardo, you want one of those? You can have it." So I said, "Yeah." So, because I would go on for a while and inspect all their weapons and tell them what they have to do. And one time, did I already tell this about the guy that threw my hat away? No?
Oh.
My hat like that, the white hat, the uniform hat. I would go aboard, and I said to the gunner's mate, I said, "You know, I'm here to tell you that you're not doing this correctly," I said. And I explained what he should do it correctly. And he said, "I'll be right back." I had hung this on this is the God's truth. I had hung this on a little thing on the side of on the bulkhead of the ship. He came back and I said, "Okay, I'll write out the report." And when I went, the hat was gone. I know he threw it over the side, but I couldn't prove it, so I just left. But see, I had to rate the ships. That was my job. Anything ordnance-wise, I had to rate it, and that went right to the Bureau of Naval. And but anyway, and I designed. Maybe I already told you. I designed this for the division that I was commanding officer of.
No, you didn't show us that.
Designed by Chief Warrant Officer Albert Attardo.
And what was that?
The Naval Reserve Division in Hartford, Connecticut.
So that was like your emblem?
That was the emblem that I designed, yeah.
Oh, wow.
The 6th Division, Surface Division 6th, Hartford, Connecticut.
Neat.
Yeah.
You're very talented.
Yeah. I never went to art school, but I was the art, 4 years in Bloomfield High School, I was the class artist.
Oh, wow.
And now you get me bragging.
You deserve bragging rights.
See, this was called the salmon sheet, and I was the artist for the salmon sheet. I drew all this stuff, and then in here it tells what my artist, Albert Attardo, artist. But yeah, I would draw these, and she went to Bloomfield High a little after me, and so you remember the salmon sheet, Ann? They called it the salmon sheet because the front was this color.
Oh, okay.
And
that was part of your art class?
but pardon?
That was part of your art class?
Yeah. I was the artist all 4 years, and I never went to art school, but I was pretty good. You know, I drew all
Well, you
this.
paid attention in class.
Oh yeah, I did okay. I did okay. Yeah, like stuff like this I drew, and any of the drawings in here were this here, the music, whatever, and recording here. For the girls had fashions, stuff, whatever. So
Oh, that's so neat.
I would draw this stuff, and anyway, that's modern drugstore. We would sell the ads so we could. I don't know where the money went, but somebody else. So.
On art supplies, maybe.
Compliments of Talcott View Farms, Valley View Farms, Tower View Farm, Chris Nielsen and Sons. These were all dairy farms, and we had a lot of dairy farms.
Mm-hmm.
Dairy products. Yeah.
And that's your flag there?
Oh, this here?
Mm-hmm.
This flag was raised in my honor by the American Embassy at that time in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
United States Embassy, Baghdad, Iraq, Commission on Public Integrity. Presented to Albert A. Attardo, Commander, USN, retired. The flag of the United States was raised in the U.S. Embassy, Baghdad, in Iraq, in your honor, 2007.
Wow.
And they shipped that to me. I was astounded when I got it.
So you
Because
didn't know?
one of my nieces knew somebody at the embassy. Celeste. Ann, you remember Celeste?
Yeah.
My niece Celeste? She knew somebody at the embassy, and this thing came through the mail to me. I was astounded. Commander, U.S. Navy, retired. Oh, Lord.
Well, Albert, I would like to thank you for your service and also
Well,
thank you for being part of this interview and
Well,
this
this
project.
is an honor. Thank you very much.
It's
Thank you
my
very,
honor.
very much.
Thank you.